Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Chris with Digital REM. Welcome back to Live at Lunch, Chris with Digital REM. In this video, we're covering the tools of Titans, and we're covering a chapter with Peter Diamandis. I'm hoping I'm saying that right. Peter Diamandis. So we're covering a chapter with him and an interview with him and Tim Ferriss. So we're going to just jump right into that as we give people the chance to fall up in here. Let's go over some of the things that we're working on. Currently, we are working on the credit management funding book. So how to leverage your newfound good credit score for funding. So strategies on leveraging your credit for funding and maximizing the ability to get funds, credit cards, and lines of credit, things like that. So boom. All right. So also, we do have some other things that are happening outside of Digital REM. So we're not going to make a production video today, but we are going to work on making a credit management consulting type of video by tomorrow. So we'll do that tomorrow, and pretty much hit the ground running with that, just to give it free game, free education on that aspect. Not selling anything or not pushing anything, but just giving education and letting people become more aware of their current position and how they can make that position better. So boom. Also, before we hop into this, I would also like to put I guess just put it out in the universe that I am looking for an event space. So a large event space with, like, I think they're called like docking doors, but big doors where you could fit cars and stuff in like that. So I'm looking for event space. I'm looking to start a studio, an actual production studio, pretty soon. So I'm looking for some type of event space that I can get started with. Put it like that, to get started with. We're at the beginning phases, so definitely I'm open to the possibility. So if you do have an event space, or you have a space that you're not using, a garage or anything like that, a warehouse or something like that, if you have something that you're not using and you would like to either donate or work out some type of agreement between us, please contact me either on IGTV, on digitalrem.com, or on Dream TV. Either way, contact me as soon as you can, and we can get started with that and figure out how we can make that a win-win situation, right? So boom, let's go ahead and hop into this. Peter Diamandis. Peter Diamandis. I'm hoping I'm saying that right? He's considered one of the world's 50 greatest leaders, from the Fortune magazine. So that says something for itself, right? The chairman of X Prize. And we're gonna go in. I guess we're gonna go in further what X Prize is. So let's just go right into the interview with Tim Ferriss, right? A problem is a terrible thing. A problem is a terrible thing to waste. This is one of the things that he says. Like, let me see, Peter. This is one of the things he says. Like, a problem is a terrible thing to waste. I think of problems as gold mines. The world's biggest problems are the world's biggest business opportunities. So again, this is something I've come accustomed to learning, that if you have the ability to solve people's problems, you have the foundation for a good business. So really looking at it into it like, how can I solve problems? How can I help people in a way, and that brings business to you. I say I learned because growing up, you kind of grew up like, I want to drive this car, and I want to be rich, and I want to have money. But then at the end of the day, really what it boils down to is, how many people are you helping? How many people's problems are you solving? So essentially, they'll seek you, and money comes to you when you seek problems to solve. So boom. When 99% of the people doubt you, you're either gravely wrong or about to make history. So again, a lot of people who are just starting off, they might have people in their life that don't see their vision or don't see what they're trying to do, and it ties back into what he says. Like, when 99% of the people doubt you, that includes family, friends, all that. When they doubt you, either you're gonna keep pushing forward, or either they're gravely wrong. You're either gravely wrong. So either you're wrong, like, even though they're telling you that, you know, they don't see the vision, either you're wrong or you're about to make history. So you're about to be groundbreaking, and whatever you're trying to do, that they is something that was unfathomable. If I said that right, to them, right? The best way to become a billionaire is to help a billion people, and that kind of ties back to what I just said before. The best way to become a billionaire is to help a billion people. So if you were able to help a billion people at $1 a person, you know, maybe through your help you're saving them hundreds of dollars, but you're able to help a billion people at $1, then that makes you a billionaire, because you've addressed a billion problems in the world. So at the end of the day, now I would say that ties back into the credit management ebooks and things like that. At the end of the day, that's just something to help people that are in certain situations. You know, if you're in a certain situation and you don't necessarily know how to get out of that situation, the first step is really getting your credit in a good situation. Before I hop back in the book, it reminds me of this thing that's kind of going around. I heard this like a couple months back, but it reminds me of this like little question that's kind of going around. They ask like, would you prefer to have $100,000 in cash or $100,000 in credit, or $1 million in credit? Would you prefer to have $100,000 in cash or $1 million in credit, right? And to some people, again, when I was at the beginning stage, I'm like, I'd rather have $100,000 in cash, because I didn't understand how credit works and how you can leverage credit. So I always like, I love to have the cash. But look into that, research that, Google that. You can probably find that if you just Google that term, like 100,000 in cash or 100,000 in credit. Which one is more valuable? Or ask whoever you think is, you know, business savvy in your circles, what they think is more valuable, right? All right. I now have this is back to the helping a billion people. I now have a very simple metric I use. Are you working? And you ask yourself, are you working on something that can change the world? Yes or no? And the answer for 99.999% of people is no. I think we need to be training people on how to change the world. So that's even coming up with your business ideas. Like, is your business idea changing the world? Is it groundbreaking? Is it innovative? Is it changing the world where it changes the lives of a billion people? If it's not, then reassess. Go back to the drawing board. Probably reassess. You know, the business, or the vision at the end of the day. Now I'm saying that to say this guy is on a totally different level than most of society. So again, when you have to pay bills and things like that, it's like, well, I'm gonna do business wise what pays the bills. But I think this really is at a place where your necessities, as far as paying your bills and things like that, are already covered. So it's not something you have to, you know, if you want to call it slave, but it's not something you have to think about daily. It's not something that you have to be like, oh, in order for me to have a roof over my head, I have to do these tasks for these people, or create this business that it's not solving a world problem, but at the same time it's bringing money, it's putting money in my pocket, so I can pay bills at the end of the day. But I think this is coming more from a place like, let's say all of that is covered. You don't have to worry about bills. You don't have to worry about living expenses or things like that. And you can really just put all of your creative power into whatever you're trying to do. I think that's where he's at in life. A lot of us aren't there, but this is a good thing to take away from people like this. Like, when you are at that place in life, then what would you do? That's like, they're going to get into this a little later, but that's like, I don't want to get into it now, but I am going to get into it now. That's like, the guy was in here, they were like, if I were to give you $1 billion, what would you do with it? If I were to give you $1 billion, what would your mission be? What would your vision be? What would you do with it? So if somebody were to give you $1 billion, essentially your living expenses will be covered for the rest of your life. So with the excess, what would you do with the rest of it? Like, what contribution to the world would you give? So boom, and thinking in those terms before you even get $1 billion. Thinking in those terms while you're even working to pay your bills. Thinking in those terms like what processes and structures can I set up now to get me to that place where I'm at least the vision as far as the bigger your bigger calling is being fulfilled. If that makes sense. All right, let's just continue on, right? If you announce it below the line of credibility, oh, well, that's a whole different thing. I don't really want to get into that that story, but since I already kind of said part of it that I highlighted, the backstory is they had a contest or whatever. They had a contest and claimed that there was going to be a certain prize, like a $10 million prize to whoever wins the contest, right? But he didn't even have $10 million to give. He didn't have anything like that. But what he did was got people involved that around him, like, oh, this is something, and got people that had high credibility involved around him and up on the panel. So when they were pitching, like, oh, this is a thing we're gonna do, even though he doesn't even have $10 million to give, this is gonna thing we're gonna do. It brought credibility to his initiative. So I'm gonna just read it. If you announce it below the line of credibility, people dismiss it out of hand. And then we have this line of super credibility. If you announce it above the line of super credibility, people say, "Wow, when is it gonna happen? How can I be involved?" So again, I'm gathering from that, your network is very important. So when you tie in people who are already credible, and you're saying this is my initiative, I'm more transparent, but being, like I even brought up earlier, I'm looking for like a warehouse space, something I could turn into a big production studio, something I could turn into a big studio. Now if I bring on celebrities and other people, and then I say the same pitch, that brings more of a super credibility to it. Even though I'm just saying it now and it's just me, it's like, oh, and nobody pays attention to it. It's kind of like, okay, that might be something that you might end up doing. But let's say if I'm trying to avoid saying, bringing up names, but let's say I brought, a celebrity A, B, C, and they're like, oh, he's about to kick off this project. That's for the viewer, going to be like, oh, when can I want to be a part of it? Like, when are the doors going to open? When is this really going to happen? And that's when you have the super credibility, and it ties back to one of the lessons I learned through my mentorship, is really leveraging your network, leveraging the people who have the credibility, leveraging their network. So really just leveraging your network. Again, he pitched this like, I would never do this, but he pitches like a $10 million prize over 5 years, but $10 million prize for this contest, and it was kind of like, it got super credible. It got people knew about it. They acknowledged it. They wanted to be a part of it because he got other people involved that were super credible. So it just made his, initiative even much more credible, right? All right. So one of the people that was on the panel, I highlighted this because it's the interesting way to pitch to somebody that you might be interested in to network with, right? If you're trying to reach out to somebody like, man, I really would like to work with this person, or at least get me on their radar. This is an interesting way to pitch to that person. So one of the people that was on the panel when he was becoming super credible with his program was the head of NASA, or chief of NASA, or somebody like one of the top people at NASA, right? And the pitch was to the person was like, listen, what do you want entrepreneurs around the world to be working on new technologies so that this is off your balance sheet? At the end of the day, kind of like I said in other lessons, like finding a pain point for that person, fulfilling their problem. At the end of the day, you want to be the best problem solver out there that you possibly can be. Don't worry about the money, just worry about solving problems. The better you can solve problems, and the more you can present, like, oh, I know this is a pain point for you. Let me help you solve that problem. Now you at least have their ear to listen to what you have to say, and that's exactly why I highlighted, like, finding a problem or knowing a problem. Again, he's referencing the balance sheet being the budget for NASA. So he's like, if I can get through this program, if I could get young entrepreneurs involved, they're going to do more of the research and development and all of this stuff that you're currently spending money to do. Now I could get young talent to come in here and do it, you know, and you don't have to do it yourself, and you can save on your balance sheet, so on and so forth. To somebody who's trying to, for one, save on the balance sheet, but also remain innovative, that to me, that would pique their interest. Like, okay, you're on to something, you're helping me with something. Let me see, you know, what do I have to do to get the ball rolling with that? So I highlight that because, again, that's tying back into, if you know somebody that you want to work with, a professional that you want to work with, an entrepreneur that you want to work with, reaching out to them, first paying attention to what they do, but then reaching out to them like, hey, I see this might be a pain point for you. This is something I can do to help you. And if they're like, oh, sure, that builds a relationship. And kind of tying back to what we said before, that relationship, when you leverage their network and leverage who they are, when you bring them up on a panel like, this is somebody I'm working with, that brings super credibility to what you have going on. So you help them to now make your initiative super credible. So in essence, that helps you, and then the ball keeps rolling with both of y'all's relationship, right? So win-win. And that's my thing. I always try to look for win-wins in any situation. Like, I really don't try to get in a situation where I don't feel it's a win-win in some type of way, right? The morning routine, his morning routine. There are two elements that I tie very much into human longevity. It's strange. One is the people who floss, and the second is those people who have a higher VO2 max. So VO2 max being essentially, I don't know what VO2 stands for, but prior to this, he talks about like deep breathing exercises. So deep breathing exercises, you know, really filling your lungs up with air, and then, you know, just deep breathing exercises at the end of the day. And then he says people who floss. And I was like, whoa, okay, let me read more about this. So with people who floss, it's not necessarily about flossing, because I thought it might be like some type of scientific breakthrough with that, you know, longevity is tied to flossing. But he was just really just saying, like, people who usually floss, that is something that they tend to, those I won't call them patterns. I'm trying to think of the word, but those let's just use patterns. Those patterns go parallel with all other types of things. So if you floss, more than likely, you know, you maintain your house, you're very clean, you're very organized, things like that. Like that characteristic is not only in flossing, but it's across the board, more than likely with everything, eating, all of that. So he's just really saying, like, people who floss are very particular and very, you know, intentional with what they're doing. So boom, we're just gonna continue going, right? All right, this is an interesting one. If I could highlight it twice, I would. When you go after the moonshot, something that's 10 times bigger, not 10% bigger, a number of things happen. First of all, when you're going 10% bigger, you're competing against everybody. Everybody's trying to go 10% bigger. When you're trying to go 10 times bigger, you're there by yourself, right? So let me just read the second part. The second thing is, when you are trying to go 10 times bigger, you have to start with a clean sheet of paper, and you approach the problem completely differently. The third thing is, when you try to go 10 times bigger versus 10% bigger, it's typically not 100 times harder, but the reward is 100 times more. So like I said, if I could highlight that twice, I definitely would. And what I'm gathering from this is that when you go 100 times bigger, your perspective is totally different. Let's put an example. Like, if for live at lunch, if I were to go 10% bigger, what could I possibly do? Let's say 10% bigger being I don't know, adding graphics to the live at lunch. That's only, why I even say that is because that only is 10% bigger, but that's not 100% bigger, because setting up the foundation, like he was saying, taking out a sheet of paper, Like when you come up with a new idea, it's not something that you can reference from a previous idea. Even anybody else's previous idea, it's not something you can reference from a previous idea because it's 100 times bigger. So it's going to be something that's groundbreaking, something that's new, something that's taking elements of all of these different things and putting them together as one package. And like, this is something new. This is 100 times bigger. And that's at the end of the day what I'm gathering from that. Like, you can't remake what somebody else is doing and just do it a little better and expect to have 100 times, 100 times more the reward. With that being said, when you are going 100 times bigger, this is something I just always think of. When you go 100 times bigger, when you get 10 times bigger than you expected, or than where you started, that's in essence a monumental moment in itself. When you go 2 times bigger, that's a monumental. Even though you're shooting for the moon, if you're shooting for the moon, but you at least get out of the stratosphere, you've made progress that a lot of people haven't made because they're going 10 times bigger. Let's say they're shooting just to get into the clouds, right? This is a horrible example, but they're shooting to get into the clouds so they can skydive or whatever, making up an example. But you're shooting for the moon, so even if you hit the stratosphere, you're still overshooting where somebody who just looked at, I'm just trying to get into the clouds at 10%. I'm just trying to remake something that's already been done, make it a little better at 10% better, right? I'm not gonna say you're not gonna, but the reward isn't as high, put it like that. You'll have a lot more competition with 10% than compared to 100%. A lot of people won't go for that 100, but the 10% is easy, right? All right, Peter's laws. We're gonna go over Peter's laws and then we'll wrap this up real quick, right? Law 2. I don't know why it starts with law 2 when it should start with law 1. Oh, he has like 20 something laws. So I guess we just picked and choose some laws, right? Law 2. When given a choice, take both. I love these laws. I will write them down somewhere. And if you're here taking notes, definitely write them down somewhere. Put them on your mirror or whatever. But Pete, law 2. When given a choice, take both. Law 3. Multiple projects lead to multiple successes. Law 6. When forced to compromise, ask for more. That's a good one. When forced to compromise, ask for more. Law 7. If you can't win, change the rules. Law 8. If you can't change the rules, then ignore them. Law 11. No simply means begin again at level. No simply means begin again at one level higher. So really, just if you ask your manager for whatever, and they say no, like, okay, go a step above them, start it over again until you go to the top, whatever, right? When in doubt, think, right? The Law 16, the faster you move, the slower time passes, the longer you live. Law 17, the best way to predict the future is to create it yourself. That's a good one. Law 19, you get what you incentivize. Law 22, before we get Law 19, you get what you incentivize. That ties back into what we were saying before, like the guy got the guy from NASA to work with him because he made it a win. He made it an incentive. He made it a win-win situation. Like, isn't this gonna take expenses from your balance sheet and help you, with innovative technologies? This is gonna help you with both. So let's make this a win-win. Let's bring some type of incentive for you to work with me or work with him. So, boom. Law 22. The day before something is a breakthrough, it's a crazy idea. The day before something is a breakthrough, it's a crazy idea. And that ties back into the 99% what we just read before. The 99% of people who probably don't see your vision, either you're gravely wrong or you're about to make history. And more than likely, the day before something is a breakthrough, it's a crazy idea. It's a crazy idea to the 99%. But you keep pushing at it, keep working at it, and the day before it's a breakthrough, your breakthrough will come. If you can't in law 26, if you can't measure it, you can't improve it. And I think that's pretty much self-explanatory. Like, how would you improve something you can't measure? And usually that's if you start to practice that, like measuring success, you can definitely see how you can make things incentives for people. Let's give it a good example. Like, let's say if you have a process like this, like Dream TV and Live at Lunch, if you have a process of creating content and things like that, and when you create content, it takes all day. Like, I'm gonna just close this book. But you create content, you create one piece of content, and it takes all day because you have to go in and edit it. You have to do this and do that. Then you have to go in and, you know, render it out and then upload it to multiple different sites and things like that. Well, if somebody comes along, it's like, you know what? It took you 8 hours to do one video. It took you 8 hours to do one video. And you know this for sure, probably even longer. And they say, well, I can show you how to do a video within under an hour and you wouldn't lose any quality. You wouldn't lose any quality, and it's just it's showing you the process from A to Z, how to get from here to here, and you won't lose any quality, and it only takes you an hour. That would be an incentive for somebody to at least listen, like, okay, tell me more. Like, tell me more about how I can do that. Tell me more about how I can stream and run a live network, if you want to say, a live network at the same time, so I can create my own channel. How can I do that? Creating these processes. But then what was the last thing? You can't if you can't measure, you can't improve it. And the point of measurement, especially in my industry, as far as graphics and production, measurement is time. How much time will it take to do X, Y, Z? If we can cut down the time it takes, then that saves you cost as far as time costs, of course. But if you are working with a designer, that saves you hourly costs working with that designer. So now they can crank out a video in a half an hour or whatever the case may be, because you have all the footage and all the templates set up for them to do their part. Right? So that saves you money. Time is money, like a lot of people say, but time is a big thing as far as in the production world. Like, time, if you can save time, you can save, especially depending on the project, you can save a lot of thousands upon thousands of dollars, even in the millions if you're working on a big budget project. But thousands upon thousands of production hours to So those are the type. With that being said, those are the type of shortcuts that, you know, we look for at Digital REM, and I use the word shortcuts loosely because really it's just templates, creating processes where now you can run this process and parts of it is automated. So essentially, you just create this, boom, it automatically updates this, updates that. Now you just retime it, boom, slice it, put the end caps on it. It's ready to package and ready to render out. So it's pretty simple. I really wasn't trying to go too far into production, but if you can't measure it, you know, how can you tell if it's successful? And that goes, I'm using that example because that goes across the board. You might be working in an industry where you understand what's valuable to that industry. And more than anything in any business, if you could save somebody time and money, then you're hitting the nail on the head. It's just figuring out what saves them time or money. So with that being said, I'm really just gonna wrap that up here. I really enjoyed that this interview with Peter Diamandis, Peter Diamandis. I really enjoyed that interview. It's very valuable information. I think he kind of like I was saying before, there's levels, and I think he's definitely at a level that's like up there, but at the same time, it's definitely like those little nuggets, those little things you could pick people's brains through a book. You could pick people's brains through a book and at least align yourself with the same perspective going forward, so you can start to, instead of focusing on problems that get you to 10%, focus on the problems that, you know, that are 100-fold, that bring 100-fold. So you're not looking for the 10% up in somebody's system 10%. You're looking for the home run, knockout, you know, Hank Aaron, knock it out the park, hit the billboard at the top, into the lake, whatever. I'm making a horrible analogy, but a home run at the end of the day. That 100 times success, if you want to say that. But you get what I'm saying. Y'all watch the whole video. But with that being said, I hope y'all do that one thing that takes you closer to your goals. Chris, what are you going to do today? Well, what I'm going to do today is work on to finish off that funding book. I already have some of the content in here. We're going to finish putting the rest of the content in there. And I'm assuming by tomorrow we're going to do some proofreading. And after the proofreading, we'll be ready to launch that. We actually are in the middle of proofreading the second book in the series, building your credit score up. So the first book in the series is available in our store at digitalrem.com, and the first book in the series is deleting those negative items off your credit report. Removing those negative items, I won't say deleting, removing those negative items off your credit report so you can have a clean foundation to start with to build your credit score up. And once you build your credit score up, that's what this third ebook is for, funding. So when you build your credit score up, what's the proper way to receive funding? Most people probably would go out and just apply for a credit card. There's strategies that you can utilize to apply for a credit card in the most effective way, and that's what we cover in that book. So make sure you get that when it is available. But with that being said, that's what we're going to do. The one thing we're going to do today, and if you are interested, go to Dream TV. The link is in the bio, or go to digitalrem.com. But Dream TV, if you're interested, and we're going to show you how we utilize our Instagram template on Dream TV right now after this. So we're running an Instagram live right now. We're going to go into our Instagram template that we have available for all of our members for free on our site at digitalrem.com. So go get yours at digitalrem.com. Just get your free membership, and you can go to the shop and download the free Instagram template. Now with the free Instagram template, kind of like I was saying before, with this whole production, I produced the live stream. Now I could just go into this template, change the text to the new name. If I want to drop a new photo in there, but everything is already established as far as branding, as far as placement and everything else, so we can keep a consistent branding across the board. So at the end of the day, that shaves off time from a designer having to go in every time and create a new thumbnail, because that will be another 3 hours, 4 hours, 5 hours of creating a new thumbnail for each individual lesson, when you have a template that already has your branding colors and your branded font and all your branding content, or your branding elements in it. So all you have to do is just change out the things that you desire to change out, being the name, being if you want to change out the photo, so on and so forth. So with that being said, you can see that right now at Dream TV right after this. So if you are on Instagram, make sure you go to the link in my bio, my link tree, and you can hit Dream TV. If you are not on Dream TV or on Instagram, you can go to digitalrem.com and you see Dream TV right there at the top in the menu bar. You can hit that and sign up for your subscription, or sign up for your membership and get access to Dream TV just like that. So boom, you'll be able to see that right now. So we're gonna hop off of this. I hope y'all, like I always say, do that one thing that takes you closer to your goal today. It can be anything. It can be hanging out with somebody and building a relationship with somebody. It can be anything, but keeping in mind, it's taking you closer to your goal, and not the 10% goal, that 100% goal. It's taking you closer to that 100% goal. Do that one thing today that takes you closer to your 100% goal, and all of y'all have a blessed day. Later, y'all. Peace.